Hey, have you and your spouse ever thought about going into business for yourselves? I have got a great episode for you. Stick around.
This is the Franchise Pitfalls and Profits Show. Each week, we bring you the challenges and triumphs of being in the franchise development and consulting business. The things you need to make money faster. And now your host, one of the most successful franchise developers in North America, Don Shin.
All right, boy, it usually brings you right up. I don't know what happened there. So welcome, Rhonda and Calvin McNeely. I got to meet you guys, I think, about 2 years ago. I am just so excited that you are going to pour into my audience and me today. I'm thrilled to have you guys on. So thanks so much for adding value to us today.
Thanks, Don.
It's our pleasure.
You bet. You bet. Well, hey, for my audience, and you guys know my audience, these are people that are buyers of franchises. They're people like yourselves that are consultants, sometimes franchisors, emerging brands. So we've got a good blend. And what I really wanted to bring, guys, to my audience today is that people sometimes think about getting into business together with their spouse, and some should and some shouldn't probably, And so for my audience, talking to my audience here, this is a couple that I love. I got to know them, started our relationship a couple of years ago at a conference, and just got to know them. And they're just such an awesome couple. Let me introduce them real quickly. They have 80 years of business experience. It must have started when they were like 3. But they've owned upwards of 30 plus different businesses, owned and been involved in. Calvin's family, he grew up in a family business, which I think is always so cool. I think that's really, really cool. They have been partners in marriage for 40 years, which I hope we talk a little bit about that. They are people of faith. I share a faith with these two, which I love, and that's been fun. So again, thanks so much for investing time with me today. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for the warm intro, Don.
Yeah, well, let's dive in. I will just talk a little bit about how you got started in. Were you always in businesses together? All the experience that you guys have. You've always been in business? So tell us a little bit about maybe that first venture together. What you guys were thinking, how it went. Just give us a little about that.
I started my first business at 18 when I was 18 years old. My office is in my bedroom, upstairs in my parents' house, and it was sweeping parking lots. Wasn't something I dreamed about doing because really nobody would want to get in the parking lot sweeping business.
You didn't just wake up one day and go, I want to sweep?
No, but I saw this piece of equipment. It looked like a Zamboni, and curiosity got the best of me. And the next thing I know, I bought it and started a parking lot sweeping business.
Cool.
A year later, I added striping and seal coating and became a complete parking lot maintenance contractor. So I started a business young, and then I got married young. I married Rhonda right out of high school.
Wow.
She was 18, I was 20, so we had a business. We're freshly married, and we really don't know anything. But we moved forward with business. But it was easy and it was hard. It was easy to figure out the equipment and how to do the work and be a good contractor, but I didn't understand business, and I didn't understand the terminology or depreciation or even really taxes. And next thing I know, we've got kids and we're going broke. And so we did all that and we went broke young.
Yeah.
But Rhonda started about a couple of years into it.
Yeah, so when we first got married, I actually graduated from nursing school. So I worked as a nurse for a few years, and then I got pregnant with our son, and I was on strict bed rest my whole pregnancy. Like, couldn't do anything. So we moved in with his parents so everybody could keep an eye on me so I would stay still, because I don't like to stay still. And his office at the time was in his mother's house. So I was bored out of my mind. I watched all the soaps. I watched all the movies. So I started answering the phone for his business. And I just started building up business for him. And I decided I really like these people. So I never went back to nursing.
Oh man, that is so cool. That is so interesting. That's so interesting. So talk to me a little bit about, as that developed, how did you guys split it? Was it a natural, hey, you do this, you do that? The building of the business, any strategies and management decisions? How do you guys sort all of that kind of stuff out?
Yeah, so it wasn't a natural thing, but as we grew, we saw our strengths and weaknesses. So I naturally pivoted towards sales and marketing. I love everything with sales and marketing. And Calvin's always kind of been an ops guy. So yes, we worked together every day, but we weren't together all the time, if that makes sense.
Yeah. That's great. That's awesome. So, life moves on, and you're now in this consulting space. Talk a little bit, because again, a lot of people are looking for other things they can do, and things that require an investment or some training, but maybe not like buying a McDonald's for $1 million or something. So how did you guys decide on consulting? What was your thought process there?
Well, backing up a little bit, we started our successful company, Highlight Airfield Services. We started that in 1989.
Okay.
And that was with the help of my father. And we grew that company to be the leading airport runway painting and maintenance contractor in North America. Still in business today after 30 some years, doing great. I still talk like I own it. I still bleed it. Still love the people there. But we left the company in 2016. That's when it was time for us to exit. And I found myself a silent investor in some franchises. And just fell in love with franchising once I understood it. Because if I had a franchise back when I first started out, well, I wouldn't have gone broke. We would have been success. We would have a better chance of success.
Yeah.
So I just fell in love with franchising and everything about it. So when we decided to leave New York and move to Tampa, which is a whole nother story, we got down here and we had sold all our business interests at that point in New York. It's like, well, what are we going to do? I got to work, and I'm an entrepreneur for sure.
I was okay not working, but it's okay.
And what happened is, through a conversation with the folks at BAI, which I had a relationship with, they said, hey, Calvin, have you and Rhonda ever thought about being a franchise consultant? And we hadn't, but the minute they put that out there, it's like, that's it. And it fits right in, because at this stage in our life, we want to help people. And we like to say, we like helping people with their marriage, which does not pay the bills. And we like helping people find a franchise, which does pay the bills. So we didn't have to think about it long when they asked us or invited us, and that's how we got into it.
Yeah, I think you guys are naturals at it, which is, and I think it's because you're not worried about making the buck. You're worried about getting people, doing right by people, and do those, just curiosity, do those two ever overlap? Like, do you ever help people in their marriages while you're helping? Without saying names, but tell us, do you have a story that comes to mind?
It actually does. I had a gentleman who was out west, and I was trying to help him find a franchise, and he wasn't loving what I had to present to him.
Okay.
But then we started talking about his family, and it turns out he's going through all this stuff with his wife and his family right now, and that's why he wasn't loving anything. And I'm like, oh, well, I could help you with that too. So yes, it does. It does. Not like first thing, but once you get to know people, they start opening up to you, and you just never know.
And I'm sure you guys do this. I know for me, one of the first things I always talk with when I was doing brokerage or consulting, and my guys do this now, but we always talk about, hey, who are the decision makers, and it's got to involve the spouse.
Yeah.
And the other thing I've seen in business myself is simply not personally, but I've seen it with clients, and that is that when you go into business for yourself, it shines a spotlight on whatever's going on in your life. So if your health is not really that good, your health is going to deteriorate when you start the business. If your marriage is not going that well, your marriage is going to suffer when you start your business. So I always tell people you need to get some of these things in order before you start the business, or you need to be sure you address these things when you start the business, because if you don't, you're going to have some serious, health problems, marriage problems, whatever. So do you guys find that as well?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we try to involve the spouse like right from the get-go. Like if you have a spouse, why don't you have her jump on the call with us, or him? Depending on who we're talking to. Yeah. For sure.
Yep. Any tips on how to raise that question with them? Any thoughts? Anything comes to mind that since you guys do it yourselves, does that make it any easier because you guys do it as well?
I don't know if it makes it easier, but we do talk about the fact that we like to help people with their marriages. Mm-hmm. So we put that out there. So it's kind of a natural fit that, hey, what's going on in your marriage? Don't know if we say it like that, but but ultimately, a sound marriage is important to a business investment, without a doubt.
Yeah. 100%. So let's get down into some tactics and practical stuff. Rhonda's laughing. Practical stuff about how you guys work during the day, or work together. How does this work? And I guess let me think about this. If people are considering buying a business, going into business for themselves as a couple, what are 2 or 3 things you think they really need to consider, that they really need to talk about before they move forward?
I think the biggest one is, how do they communicate with each other?
Nice.
Communication is key in anything to do with marriage.
Yeah, true. Isn't that? Yeah.
Especially a business partner.
Yeah.
Like if you guys want to go in business together, do you know how to communicate with each other? It's been different for us in this season. Our last season, we knew how to communicate with each other. But then when we moved to Tampa, it's just him and I. Like, we don't have people that work for us and anything like that. So it was like a learning curve for us all over again. Like, you can't just come in my office and talk to me whenever you want. We've been married long enough that we can say that to each other. But people that haven't been married that long, how do they communicate with one another?
That's neat. Anything, Calvin? Anything come to mind? I love that. Yeah. I mean, you're spot on. That's fantastic.
I mean, there's decisions that got to be made, and you're not going to agree on everything. And certainly we don't.
No.
So how do you deal with those situations? How do you deal with the conflict? Who gets the final say? I think you just got to address those things and have a mechanism for how you're going to handle that. But it's no different than if you had a business partner. It's not your marriage. It should be easier. I don't think it is, but it should be.
Yep.
But if you got a strong marriage, who better to be a business partner?
Yeah, boy, isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth?
I mean, your spouse has your back.
Yep.
More than anybody.
Yep. Should.
Yeah, should.
Well, that's awesome. So shift gears a little bit because you're working with people every day that are looking to start a business through franchising. What kind of characteristics obviously these communication is a huge one. How are they going to lead and communicate with people if it's a business that has staff in it? Are there any other things that you tell people, that you need these characteristics or this criteria in you if you're going to be successful owning a franchise. Any, one or two things that come to mind that you really encourage people to, do you have this? Do you have this when they're, when you're working with some of your candidates?
It depends on what they're looking for, but I love people that are entrepreneurs. I love people that are outgoing. I love people that have been in business before by themselves or working for somebody else. Just that top management type of person. I love those people. And I really think I kind of seek them.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I think is not to get off track, but I think you hit on something about former business owners. I think sometimes the consulting market sometimes misses that. Sometimes I don't think we target that enough. Or even if they own the business still now, are there parallel businesses? Is there a way for that owner to diversify, just not get locked into a single type of business that could be up or down depending on what's going on? Or we're testing and measuring a little bit about going to business owners that have like a home services. If they have a home services business, they already have a database. They already have a customer base that trusts them. Why not sell them a franchise that does a different type of home services? So I that's a great point that I think former business owners or even current business owners with a parallel type of a business are great targets. And I think sometimes the consulting space kind of misses that. I think sometimes.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Any thoughts on the reverse of that? Any thoughts of certain people, that really should keep their day job? That you think maybe if you see this in somebody, we got to say, boy, I really think you should keep your job. Any thoughts on characteristics that would be the opposite of that? Hey, if you're like this, you probably are not a good candidate to buy a business. Any thoughts on that? Kind of the flip side of that question.
Well, first I would say, not like my wife, I get more pleasure helping people become first-time entrepreneurs. That excites me, and and I love starting any new business. So maybe it's the startup, but I like help people become entrepreneurs.
Okay,
but yeah, there's plenty of people that probably shouldn't. I mean, if they can't fill out a questionnaire, if they can't answer some basic questions, if they can't make appointments, then they got no business owning a business. Period.
Yeah.
Or if they don't have any money to invest.
Well, of course, there's plenty of people with no money
but they want to leave their 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Yep. I think the whole passive, quote unquote, semi-absentee thing, there was a swing toward that, I think, during the pandemic. And I'm not so sure, that anybody got it really well, got it right. I think there were a lot of hits and misses there. But well, that's great. That's great. Anything, I always ask this question, are you guys seeing anything right now, anything trending, anything that are, that my viewers, would be good for them to know, anything that's trending or stuff that you're watching, anything like that going on, anything like that come to mind right now?
Trending? No. I mean, we're both in a business group with our church, and we're both going through a workbook together, separately, but together with that. So that helps us in business and, keeps us focused and centered, but I'm not really watching anything trending or seeing anything trending.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's good.
You bringing up your faith, and that we didn't talk about going into this or not going into this, so I hope I'm okay. I think I know you. I think I know you well enough. It's okay. But do you want to share anything on how you guys blend your faith into what you do now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I think it's important that the people we interact with understand that, hey, we're followers of Christ, we're believers, and it's part of our life. It's who we are, and you know, we wear that on our sleeves. It's on our website. It's in a lot of our social media stuff. We want people to understand where we're at. But you know, when you get somebody on a call and they're in that season, it's pretty cool to say, hey, you know, can I pray for you right now? And to be able to do that for somebody. And while I don't pray for everyone I get on a call with, nobody's ever not embraced that. Nobody's ever said no. Nobody's ever appreciated that, believer or not. You know, I just felt led to pray for them, and that's pretty cool. But our church is very pro-business, so we have a very powerful business group through our church for men and women, for business leaders, and boy, we learned so much about running a God-centered business.
Yep, that's awesome. No, that's awesome. I think there's more and more of that's needed. I know our church has like a 6 a.m. once a month just to get kind of leaders together. I'd say half are business owners, half are just like there's a principal of a school, but the focus isn't on it's on how to run an organization with biblical principles, but it isn't really how to run a Christian or a faith-based business. So, and I think there's a little nuance in there. I think there's some differences in there, which is cool. Great story, a positive that's come out of your consulting business. Do you have a story, well, again, without naming names, but do you have a story or someone that was just a great, just was evidence of why you got into the business that you got into? Any thoughts on a story like that or a candidate like that?
Yeah. I mean, my wife just whispered in my ear, maybe you heard her, but I always hear her whispers.
Right answer.
But the first people, my first clients, and I got introduced to them. They were introduced to me, and they were two buddies that retired out of the Air Force here in Tampa, and they came to me and said, "Hey, we want a Smoothie King." And I'm like, "Cool, let's get you a Smoothie King. But how about we get to know each other first?" And being local, and I'm old school. If I can meet somebody face to face, I'm going to do it.
Yep.
And so we met for coffee, and through a couple of meetings, we graduated to meeting up for a beer. And I said to these guys, "Okay, I got your smoothie franchise right here, but I've gotten to know you guys, and I've got some other ideas that I think are worth looking at." And through that list, we narrowed it down to two things. Smoothies went by the wayside pretty quick.
Okay.
I get smoothies, and
dude, I got my own. So
there you go. And they ended up with a crime scene and trauma cleaning business franchise.
Oh, neat.
And it fit them, and it fit their background. And they're all about suicide prevention and helping their others that have served. And they couldn't be happier. I just talked to them yesterday, actually, and we've become good friends through this. But it's just kind of funny. They came to me for a Smoothie King, and they walked away with a crime scene and trauma cleaning business, which they had
a little bit of difference there.
No idea. But
and they're doing fantastic.
Yeah, they are.
I mean, they're very happy.
They are.
So the transition was, hey, I'll give you what you've asked for, but I really can do better for you. Is that a pretty?
Yeah. I mean, they spent a whole lot less money, and they're very
so
happy. They couldn't be happier.
And you talked earlier too about boy, if somebody can't even fill out a piece of paper for me, questionnaire for me, then, what kind of a good, decent business person would they be? They're not even willing to invest that kind of time. These guys were obviously saying, yeah, I mean, you guys have a skill set here. You can help me beyond what we were thinking. And they took advantage of it. And that's a good characteristic of a business owner, being open to what somebody has to say.
Yep.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Okay, I've got one more question as we wrap up. I promise this is it. And I ask both of you this as well. Is there anything that we haven't talked about, anything that I haven't asked you that you would just, wow, if there was one thing I could tell somebody that's in this audience, if there's one thing I could tell somebody, this is what it would be. And we haven't talked about it yet, maybe, or I haven't asked. So anything come to mind that you just, hey, I've got to get this off of my mind. I got to share this. Any thoughts?
I would say in regards to working with your spouse, lots of grace, patience, lots of it. Outserve each other. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Lots of it.
And sticking with the same theme of married couples in business. And this came up, I was with a group, and one of these young guys, he's in business with his wife, and it's not going well, the relationship. And he's working 12 hours a day, probably more than that, just working his butt off to grow his business. And I respect that. But the advice I gave to him, and it took me a long time to learn this, because, women can turn business on and off. They tend to have other responsibilities, at least in our relationship. My wife manages the house, manages the kids, grandkids, lots going on there where I can stay a little more focused on business. And, I imagine at some point she'll retire, and I imagine at some point I'll die. But
you will, Calvin. I'm sorry to say that.
I'm thinking about business all the time, the vision, the goals. And you have to realize, outside of normal business hours, if I want to talk to my wife, or if you want to talk to your spouse about business, you just can't bring it up. You just can't talk business all through dinner, all through the evening, every time you go for a car ride, trying to watch TV at night, anything. You just can't do it. But if you need to talk about it, even if it's at dinner, all I do is say, hey, honey, can we have a little impromptu board meeting? Can we get together for 10 minutes and have a meeting sometime this evening? And she'll simply, the fact that I ask gives her the option to say no, but usually she'll say yes, or, well, not right now, but you know what? After we get this done and that done, be happy to sit down and give you 10 minutes or 20 minutes. Or sometimes during dinner, she'll say, yeah, I'm cool with that. And we'll talk a little business, but you got to ask.
Yeah. Because
there's always going to be one of the person in the relationship that's got something business oriented, and the other one's focused on family.
Yep.
And of course, it makes a huge difference if you get kids involved. But just ask for permission. It's that simple.
I love it. And I was actually I'm glad you brought it up, because I was thinking, oh boy, that is what I wanted to ask them about. I have and I don't know if I've got a couple that I love to death, and they're partners. They've been partners in their business almost as long as I've owned my businesses. And I'll be with them, and like all they're doing is talking business the whole time. And I'm there, guys, we need to have a timeout on the business talk. Let's talk about people, and let's talk about the families, but they're constantly talking about the business. So man, I'm so glad you said that. So audience, if there's anything you take away from this, no offense, Rhonda, but I think that was brilliant. It had to be said. And Calvin, I'm so appreciative that you shared that. So that is a wrap, guys. I appreciate you guys again so much for investing time with me. Audience, if you're getting value from Franchise Pitfalls and Profits, Subscribe, like us, ask me comments or ask me questions. And again, you know how to get a hold of Rhonda and Calvin if you want to. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.